friends are having a great time. It's not face to face, it's all online. We're all in our homes, miles away. Looking like my family, what can I say? My crafting show is on, it's my time for me. Laughter, tips and tricks, this is what I need. We're here to have fun, we're all in the zone. When crafting with friends, you're never alone. Don't call or text me, it's about to begin. I've been patient, time for me to chime in. Comfy clothes on, feeling just fine. I'm busy right now, it's crafting show time. My crafting show is on, it's my time for me. Laughter, tips and tricks, this is what I need. We're here to have fun, we're all in the zone. When crafting with friends, you're never alone. The host came on, they are truly a gem. Here for the show and to chat with my friends. Chat with each other about this and that. We share ideas, wisdom and other fun facts. My crafting show is on, it's my time for me. Laughter, tips and tricks, this is what I need. We're here to have fun, we're all in the zone. When crafting with friends, you're never alone.
Live from the Sunshine State in Miami, Florida, here is the Gifted Crafters Morning Show with Nancy.
Let's have a good time. Ooh, time to get our craft on. Ooh, time to have fun. Ooh, time to feel good.
Good morning, Gifted Crafters, and welcome to the Gifted Crafters Morning Show. Phew, let me tell you, it's been a week. Matter of fact, it was a day yesterday. Holy moly. It was just really not our day. Everything that we did was just a big mess. So I am so happy that we are back. And welcome. Okay, I see people from all over the place. Richmond, Illinois. Good morning. Wow, we even see Rhode Island. You know, I went to school in Rhode Island. So hi. All righty. Got Philly is hot and steamy. Well, let me tell you, it's pretty hot down here. I can just tell you that. Yeah, we're down in Miami, Florida, where it is really steaming hot down here. We're expecting a little bit of rain, but, you know, who knows? All righty, let's see. We've got people from all over. Yes, Virginia, Lake Ridge, Virginia. Awesome. Okay, San Antonio, Texas, Australia. Wow, thanks for joining. Awesome. Thank you so much. Louisiana's in the house here too. Awesome. We've got Texas again, San Antonio. Woohoo! Awesome. And we've got someone watching for the first time on her first live. Hey, Crafting on a Dime, with Shay. Thanks for joining. Awesome. Okay. All righty. Well, let me tell you guys, it's, you know, again, I have to just apologize for yesterday. It was just such a disaster. everything was just going wrong. And, you know, these updates that they do sometimes really messes with your equipment. It really does. But man, what a chaos. We were just scrambling over here. We tried our best to do everything. And in the end, it was just like, we need to just cancel because it was just not working. Anything that we did. We went back and my poor hubby doing all kinds of things. I mean, we were at the point, we were at the verge, like if this didn't work, he was going to have to be up all night rebuilding a computer. I mean, that's how bad it got. It was an event. It really was an event. Very stressful, but we're back. So I'm super happy about that. And I do have to thank you guys. So what we ended up doing after we think that we fixed everything, we kind of did a little last minute thing that was intended to just be for the members. So my members is a much smaller group, and I needed a small group to be able to go live and test things out to make sure that they were working with the fixes that we made so that we can come in today and everything would be working. So the intention was for this small group. And so we marked it on YouTube to be members only. And so only the members could chat and only the members were supposed to be able to see the video. But I don't know what happened. Somehow YouTube changed it from members only to public on the video, but then the chat stayed as members only. So very, very weird. Not sure, but I do want to thank Heather, if you're out there, 1 Minute Tips, and Jackie. You guys did a fantastic job for helping us out. And really, you know, it was really just a matter of us having to go live. And we kind of broke down our show into pieces and we were testing every piece. And it was a matter of them telling us, you know, can you see this? Can you hear this? You know, and just making sure things were working through graphics. So we kind of went through the show. They've got a little bit of inside info in terms of, you know, how we put our show together and things that we test. So that was kind of cool. But it was really just, we needed that help because sometimes, you know, you have things and you think they're right, but then when you go live, it's a different story. And sometimes the software gets hung up or, you know, things just happen. And so we needed that real test to make sure that everything was going okay. So thank you once again to you guys. I really appreciate your coming in and testing with us last night. And then thank you yesterday. A couple of people kind of hung around. There was a suggestion, I believe it was Baker McFake. You suggested, you know, we'll stay around, just play some music. So that's what we did. We ended up just kind of, you know, putting a little scenery out there and played the music in the background. And you guys were just chatting away. It was just so funny. And I think we had a great time. You know, it was really nice to be able to do that. And so, you know, it was just, we had a lot of fun. And, you know, we had a bunch of lemons and we made lemonade. We made it work yesterday. So thank you for that. I really, really appreciate it. And, you know, I just really appreciate you guys. I really do. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. So today looks like we are back up and running and we'll have all our segments back again. And so we can get right to our project, right? So let's do a quick recap. What we were doing, we are working off of a book called Pumpkin Hill. It has a whimsical applique and it shows 2 different techniques that you can use on here. I'm kind of throwing in a 3rd technique and we're going to do all 3 just to see, you know, which one is the better one. Gave some tips on what the book suggests is the beginner friendly one, but we'll let you guys make that call and, you know, just kind of keep tabs on which different technique you like the best, because I want to ask you guys at the end, which one do you think was better? So yes. Oh, awesome. Thank you. Thank you guys. I really appreciate your comments. Okay. So, so that's what we're working on. And so we've kind of started this, and we did our background, and we've quilted our background. And today we're going to be cutting out the shapes and applying it to the background piece. And so we'll do a little bit of that. Okay, so before we get into all of that, let's go over to our first segment, our crafting news, because we haven't done this yesterday, and we've got some news going on out there, and I want to make sure that you guys get that information. Okay, so let's go over to that. Let's go to Bluefield, Virginia. So my Virginia people out there, mark your calendars. Their 13th annual Patchwork Quilters Jamboree is just around the corner, guys. And this is a 2-day event. It's going to take place on Friday and Saturday, June the 20th to the 21st, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And it's at the Grand High School in Bluefield, Virginia. They're going to do a celebration of creativity, color, community. You can get to kind of walk through and see all the stunning quilts that they're going to have there. And they were handmade by talented folks that are from all over different regions. There's going to be demos, quilting. They're going to be demoing quilting techniques, which is really cool. They're going to have award-winning designs and a marketplace full of, a ton of little crafty goodies that you can buy and quilting supplies. And the admission to get in is just $5 for anyone 18 and over. And it's just kind of going to be worth every penny, I think. I think you're going to get a pretty good deal for $5, just, getting all that information, getting some demos and being able to buy some, little notions and stuff. So that sounds pretty good. But if you want more information, patchworkquilters.com. Just visit their website there. Okay, now we're going to head over to Pelham, Alabama. And we've got a little story for you here that I thought was pretty neat. So we've got a group of seniors that are gathering at their local senior center. And they're just not gathering for fun and friendship, but they're also gathering to sew something special. They're part of a program that's called Socks of Love. And they handcraft beautiful Christmas stockings for newborns. And those newborns are at St. Vincent's Hospital, UAB Hospital. And the whole idea came from a member named June Letiser. And she quickly became a holiday tradition for them. So it's pretty cool. So each stocking is made with soft felt. And then they decorate them with ribbon, buttons, and of course, lots of love. Now, these little treasures go out to all the babies in December, and it's just a little small gesture that brings, some big comforts to some families that are going through some emotional times. Now, they make between 75 and 90 stockings a year, and they've got a team of dedicated volunteers. A lot of them are really, proud grandparents that are going around, and they sew, they cut, and they, kind of spread the cheer and get together to make these, and it's really nice. So if you're 55 and older and in the Pelham area, you'll really love to join in, or you can donate some fabric to these guys and some supplies. So really, really neat. I thought that was pretty cool. And that's going on out there. So, it's nice to hear news that, is just comforting and, really nice when you hear good news that's going on out there. I know a lot of the news nowadays, it's just bad news, a little depressing out there. We want to do some good news, right? So we kind of focus on that. Alrighty, so let's see. One note I wanted to tell you guys. We will not be having our Saturday crafternoon this Saturday because my son is competing this weekend on his stand-up paddleboarding with Special Olympics. So we will not be streaming on Saturday. I'll put a little note out on Facebook to remind you guys as well. He's got a competition, and so we're going to be pretty much at that event, and it starts pretty early in the morning. So there's no way I'm going to be able to stream, but I'll try to take some pictures and post them out there to kind of keep you guys in the loop. So yeah, he's got this competition that he's been kind of working towards, and they've been practicing every week. And so here we go. We'll see what happens. He's very competitive and he really loves it. So I'm really happy, love to support the team, and we're just going to have a great time. So a little bit of a break, let you guys catch up on some of your housework and other things you got to do, right? But then we'll be back again the following week for our Saturday craft afternoons. So yes, awesome. Oh, good luck to my son. Thank you, Robin. Yeah, I mean, the competition's pretty fierce, let me tell you. We get different counties that come in, and we just compete against other counties. So we, represent Miami-Dade County. We've got Monroe County, Broward. They all come in and they compete, and they're all different levels. So it depends what level you're in and who your competitor is going to be out there. So I don't know how he's going to do, but we're rooting for him. Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Don't forget to wear sunscreen. I'm telling you, with this heat, I'm going to be dying. Yeah, I'm going to try to find the shade, which is really hard to do. Oh, you ordered the book that we're working on. Awesome, Bettina, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. It's really nice. I love the pictures. The instructions are really laid out well. And if you let me know if you end up doing the entire quilt, right? Because, I'm doing just a portion of it as like a little wall hanging, but you can definitely do the entire quilt. Hey, Heather, how are you? I'm not sure if you caught me earlier, but thank you for yesterday. You were a really big help to us. So, not sure if you heard me saying that earlier. I'm not sure when you tuned in, but yeah, great help. Thank you. Yes, we are back. Okay, so let me see. Did I miss anything? Well, one thing, we didn't grab our drinks, did we? I kind of just jumped right into it because, we've had so much to do. So if you haven't already, I'm a little late. Let me grab me a drink and I'm going to pour you one, okay, while we're at it. Oh, gosh. Yes, I needed that nice drink in the morning, ready to go. I mean, I'm telling you, I was nervous this morning. I was nervous. Even though we tested it last night, it's like I was nervous. I'm hoping this thing works. So enjoy your cup of whatever it is you're drinking. Oh, awesome, Flo. Your niece competes in Special Olympics. Oh, awesome. It'll be great to be a spectator and see their happy faces and cheering each other on. Yeah. I mean, those kids, they touch my heart. They pull my heartstrings, and they know they get anything they want from me. They're awesome. I love our team. I really love our team. They're all awesome. Okay. All right. So let's get into the project, and I'm going to kind of bring out what we did. When was that? Tuesday, right? So on Tuesday, we quilted, and I finished up the quilting here. And so you can see, I guess you can see it on the camera, right? This is the result of all of that quilting that we did with our lines. Now, I purposely left the lines on the other side so you guys can see it, but it's kind of hard to see it, right? Now that it's quilted. But I do still have the lines on here. It's kind of difficult to see, I think. Let me see if I go a little closer. You can kind of see the little marks on here. But if you guys remember, we took a ruler, we drew some lines diagonally, and then we flipped it over and we kind of drew lines going the other way, and so it created this little diamond effect, right? And so then we went ahead and we sewed on the line. And so the result of that is this pretty cool little panel, right? And so we also joined the two together. And so, I kind of put my fingers around here just to make sure, because I was a little worried because I had cut the batting in half. But it turned out just fine, and I don't feel any gaps or anything here on the seam. So yeah, it turned out really good. And so, of course, we've got some trimming to do, but I'm not going to do that till the very end. Yeah, we can use our AccuQuilt to cut the pieces. Oh, awesome. So if you have that, yeah, if your dies do that, definitely. I don't have an AccuQuilt, but yeah, that would be pretty neat. The other things that we were talking about that you could do if you didn't want to do this with your sewing machine is if you have an embroidery machine and you have those backdrop designs, like you don't have to do the diamond, you can do any backdrop that you want, really, and just kind of put it in your embroidery machine and have the embroidery machine do the backdrop for you. All right, isn't that cool? And if you have one of those really big hoops, you could do like the entire panel. If not, you could do it in sections, right? And just make sure that you're connecting the starting and the ending. So that's another way of doing it as well. But I kind of like doing this on my sewing machine. It's I don't know, it's a little I don't know, comforting to me. I just like it. And so I like being able to kind of just make sure that I'm sewing on the line. It gives me that practice as well, you know, so it's pretty cool. So we've got this piece, it's all ready. So now the only thing we have left to do is we need to put the applique pieces on here. And then we're going to add a little border on the end. We're going to trim this up and add the border around it. And then I will add a little bit of extra little material to make these little tabs so I can have it as a little wall hanging. So we'll do that. So let's take a look at the applique techniques that they talk about in the books. I'm going to move over to the book and I'm going to pull out, I've got a couple of pieces here that I kind of started just to kind of give us a head start. And in the book, of course, we've got the needle turn applique, and then they have the spray starch method. Those are the two methods that the book talks about. And so we're going to take a look at the needle turn applique today, and we'll do that one. And so what I've done was I went ahead and took you have to kind of tear this out of the book. And, you know, I hate that they have, you know, of course they have to fold it, but I hate when the fold is like right on the actual design. So what I end up doing, because that kind of gives you a little bit of bulge here and kind of makes it a little difficult to trace sometimes, I take my paper, and so I know that we're going to be using this acorn here, right? That's what we're going to cut out and do the applique for. So what I do is I've got my little iron here heating up, and I'm going to take this and I'm just going to iron it, guys. Yeah, I'm going to iron the paper so I can bring down that fold here. And I just iron it just like that. Just iron it down. And if you want to open this all the way up, you can do that and iron it a little bit better. But see what that does? That makes it a little bit flatter, eliminates a little bit of that fold, and it just makes it easier. Since we know we have to trace this, it's going to make it a little bit easier for me. Because this thing, you know, has been folded in the book, I'm just going to, you know, focus on that fold and just kind of bring that down a little bit. And then the paper gets really hot, so be careful with that. But yeah, I just like to do that to start it off, only because, you know, it can get in your way. You could be tracing, and then when you get to the fold, you're struggling to get past the fold because it has that bulge because it's been folded for so long inside a book, right? So yeah, so I like to do that. That kind of flattens it out, makes it a little bit better. And then we're going to take this and we're going to be using freezer paper, right? Because the book recommends this is what you use. So I went ahead and I got this. I've got this in my craft room for a really long time. This one's got 100 square feet. I mean, it will last you. It's going to be in your craft room for a while. So I've got this piece of freezer paper that we're going to use to do the applique. So went ahead and I cut a piece out. And so I have it here. Now, if you're not familiar with using freezer paper, you've got two sides of freezer paper. You've got a dull side, and then you have a shiny side. And let me see if you guys can see that difference. So here's your dull side. Here's the shiny side. And I don't know if you see that. It's got a little bit of shine to it. Okay? Big difference here. Okay? You need to know which one's which. So your shiny side, if you put your hands through it, it's a little bit smoother. glides a little bit better. And then your dull side is just like your typical paper. It feels kind of coarse on here, right? It's a little dull. Okay, so what we're going to do and what the instructions tell you to do is to go ahead and place your freezer paper on top of the pattern like I have here. And we're going to be drawing this out on the dull side of the freezer paper. Okay, so grab a little pencil, marking pen, whatever it is you want to use, and then just go ahead and do that on the freezer paper. And I'm going to kind of line it up towards the corner here of the freezer paper, because then I can use the rest of this here. So I'm going to use a little light box, and I have this kind of folded, so you not going to really see too much of the light, but it helps a little bit. I could open this all the way, but I'm going to just leave it like this. It's good enough for me to be able to see. And then I'm just laying this on top, and I'm going to go ahead and trace this out. And just do the best you can to just kind of stay on the line here. Okay, you know what? I am going to open it up. I'm going to make it a little easier for me. So let's see. Just move my iron because I don't want to burn my paper. There we go. Let's move that this way. Okay. I think that's good, and you guys can see that. And I'm just going to make my light a little bit brighter. There we are. Okay. Here we are. Now, this pattern is printed double-sided. So when you have it on your light box, you are going to see the other side a little bit. I just try to ignore it and focus on what I'm trying to do here. But I think if you turn your light up all the way as best as you can, makes it a little easier. And then just go around, and we're just going to trace. And we're going to trace it going the other way as well. Now, there's 3 pieces to this acorn, right? We have the bottom piece, we have the topper, and then we have the little stem up on the top. So when you're tracing this out, you know, you're going to want to do, especially if you have 3 different fabrics that you're using, you're going to want to do this as 3 separate pieces. Now, they have a little bit of a dotted line going across. And so I'm going to take that dotted line and I'm going to trace right over that, closing up this shape. So you want to close up your shape so that when you start cutting your fabric, you know exactly where to cut. Okay? And that's my first little shape. And I'll bring it closer in just a minute. So before I do that, I'm going to go ahead. Actually, I can show it to you now. This is what it looks like. I drew it on a blue pencil so that you guys could see that. So that's our bottom piece. And then we're going to cut the little topper. This is kind of the acorn cap. And I'm going to cut that and trace that as well. So we'll do that. Go ahead and trace it. I'll try to do it a little bit darker. And then just go all the way around. Now you're going to, again, ignore your stem, and you're just going to go ahead and follow the dotted line. You just want that one piece. And there's the topper. Okay? And then now you have the little stem, and so I'll put that really small. And there we are. So that's it. Those are the 3 little pieces that you're going to need. Okay? All 3 of those. And so now I'm going to go ahead and fold this right back up. And so now what we're going to do is just grab some scissors, or you can do it with a rotary cutter if you feel comfortable with a rotary cutter. And you're just going to cut right on the line. Now, if you're afraid that you're going to do too much, just try to cut right alongside the outside of the line. It's better that you have too much than you cut into it, right? You don't want to cut into it. So just cut on the outside of it. And if you want, you can cut little chunks off just to make it a little bit easier. And then I'm just going to go ahead and get a little closer and follow the line as best you can. And this is where I think the third method that we do is really going to help out, because the third method, I want to use my scan and cut and have the scan and cut do this part for me. So for those of you, who have issues like with your hands, and maybe you're not the best at cutting things out on the lines and things like that, that's where your scan and cut would really help out. And that's what I'm going to do as our third method. And probably do that one. We'll see if we have time, we can do it tomorrow. I was hoping to have all three methods done by Friday. Okay. All right, so we've got our bottom part cut out. And then what I did, and the book doesn't tell you to do this, but what I did is I went ahead and I folded this in half. And I just kind of folded it in half lengthwise, so I could have it like this. And then I just kind of checked, because I want this to be symmetrical, so if I was off in my cutting, I kind of wanted to see it and then maybe trim a little bit if I needed to, which looks like I do need just a tad. So I just tried to trim it just to get both sides to look exactly the same. And then the other thing I want to do, and I kind of look at both sides, by the way. The other thing I want to do is I want to mark that middle section, because when I start putting this acorn together, I want to make sure that I'm not completely off. I want to be centered when I'm putting the topper in, and I want to know where that center is when I'm putting the stem in. So I want to go ahead and mark that. So I'm going to grab my little pencil, and right on my fold, I'm just going to draw a little line and just kind of put a little bit of an arrow on here. And so then I know where my center point is on that. And so I have that ready to go. And then I've got the topper, and I also have the stem already cut out, because I was hoping to save some time to make sure that we can get through all of this. So let me just put the excess over here. So we've got our three pieces, and after you've cut all three pieces out, this is what you'll have. And so now what we're ready to do is kind of just pick our fabrics and see what they're going to look like against our background here. So let me tone this down, and I'm going to bring our background piece over here. Okay. And so we'll have to decide where you want to position this exactly. You may want to find the center point. Maybe you even want to do it to the side here. If you are adding, some letters or something that you guys had embroidered. I kind of explained before we were quilting this that if you wanted to embroider it, you can certainly do that and say happy fall or something like that, and then just kind of tilt this over to the side. Or you can just leave it in the middle the way it's kind of set up in the book, where you could have it kind of just in the middle of the square. So you can do that as well. So it kind of depends what you want to do here. You could do multiple of them. Maybe you want to put 2 acorns and have, kind of have them side by side. You can do that too. you can kind of totally just make this your own thing, right? So you'll think about the positioning and where you want to put it here, but then we also got to think about the fabrics that we're picking, right? So we had said, kind of outlined a couple here. And so we said, well, this would be a cute little bottom piece. And so I kind of just like to try to make it look like the acorn, just so that I get an idea of what it would look like. So before I actually cut my fabric. So, you know, it's not going to be exact, but this is kind of what it would look like. And so I kind of squish it up to kind of resemble that bottom portion, right? And so we've got that. So that could be the acorn there. And then we would need the topper. So like this is kind of what it would look like, right? And then we'll pick the topper for it. And depending what you want to do for the topper, we could do that. But it is kind of dark, but it does have a very light background. So if you don't want to do this, maybe this is a little too similar, we could also do this. Make that a little bit different, right? So that would be our topper. Or we could do this one. Have it a little different there. So those are kind of the choices that I have. The other ones I think would just be too light. You know, if I use that as a topper, I mean, we could go with that. We could go with this. So I don't know. What do you guys think? You know, we want to kind of keep it a little bit off because I want it to stand out. And I do need one for the stem. The stem is going to be this little brown piece here. I'll use that as my stem. But I was kind of playing with it, but I kind of think, you know, I think we're going to go ahead and go with either these two, or this. I think this would actually be kind of cute. All right. Yeah, I think we're going to go with this one. So let's just go with this. We can make plenty more if we wanted to. And then we're going to use this as our topper. And we're going to use this as the base. And then, of course, we have the stem. So I'm going to set the stem over to the side since it's so tiny. And then we're going to take our fabric here. I'm going to open it up. And just going to give a little portion of the fabric. I'm going to give it a little bit of a press just to get these wrinkles out. So let me do that here on the side. Just a quick press. And you're really not using a lot of fabric at all. You're just using a tiny little piece. So if you got those scraps out there, look in your scrap pile and dig something up because this piece is really tiny. It's just this tiny little piece and you don't want to waste the whole thing. All right, so if you've got scraps that you want to use, this is a perfect opportunity. Okay, let's see. I lost my little topper. Oh, here it is. Let me set them over to the side. Here we go. Okay. So we've ironed out this little piece right here. And we're going to take our applique piece and we're going to kind of place it right on top here on this little corner. And I'm going to make sure that I have a bit of fabric all the way around because what we're going to do is we're going to iron this applique onto the right side of the fabric. Okay. And then we're going to cut this piece out. But when we cut it, we're going to leave a 1/4 inch seam all the way around from that. So let's go ahead and do that. And let me just double check here to make sure that, yeah, okay. So this method, trace on the dull side of the fabric and then place your freezer paper on the right side of the fabric. Okay, the other method that we're going to do is a little bit different. So don't want you guys to confuse the two methods, okay? So let's see. I know you guys can't see that here, so let me bring it over this way. Here we go. So there's our fabric. Here's our applique piece. I've got space all the way around it. And I'm just going to iron this on to the right side of the fabric. And so the freezer paper will just kind of stick itself to the fabric there. Okay. Yeah, never seen dark bottoms and light tops. I guess it could be both. Yeah, I've seen them either way. I've seen them both ways. So I guess it's just a matter of preference. I really look at it as what's going to pop out more with my background fabric. That's kind of what I'm really looking at. Because I don't want my background fabric and my applique piece to kind of mesh together. You want it to pop. So now that I've got this on here, I'm going to have to cut this out. And I'm just going to grab my little rotary cutter and just do a quick cut just to get this piece out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Just to cut the piece out. I'm not looking at measuring anything or anything like that. I just want to cut it out. And I'm going to try to just do that. Of course, the blade that I picked this morning was dull and I didn't check it. There we are. Not too bad. Let's see. Okay. So that's all we need from this fabric. Very, very little. So you'll have plenty for other projects, right? So that's that piece right here. And now you can continue with your rotary blade, or you can just grab a pair of scissors, and you're going to want to cut, leaving that 1/4 inch all the way around. Now, just think about this. The amount of fabric that you're leaving here is what you're going to use to tuck inside, because we are doing the needle turn applique. So that is going to be turned underneath and sewn on to your background. So try not to leave like a tiny, tiny amount, because you're going to have a hard time tucking that in. So if you want to leave a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, that's fine. You know, just, you don't have to leave a ton of it, because you don't want to create a lot of bulk, especially in the corners. But you want to create enough where you'll be able to take your fingers and tuck them underneath. Okay, so go ahead, leaving the freezer paper on. I'm just going to go ahead and just kind of go around. These are not the scissors that I typically use, but that's okay. And you can see here how I'm kind of just leaving that nice, generous little amount of fabric that I'm leaving all the way around. I'm just going to try to keep it uniform to that size all the way around. And if not, you can always go back afterwards and just trim it again, right? There we go. Alrighty. One little trim on this end. There we go. Okay. So there's our piece. Okay. And now we're going to just repeat the same thing with the other two fabrics. So we're going to grab the other one, move this to the side, open it up, and then I'm going to go ahead and use the freezer paper. So go back to our ironing board, bring that back over, and lay that flat. First, give it a quick press. I like to use up my corners here. And this is another tiny piece. So again, shiny side of the freezer paper is down. Leave yourself a generous amount of fabric all the way around. And then this is what you're going to cut out. So Just holding that down, I'm going to take my iron. Go ahead and press that. There you go. Okay, that's that piece. And just going to grab my scissors for this one. Just going to go ahead and cut just a little piece, and then I will trim it down after. Okay. And then you're going to do the same thing for the stem, because the stem is such a tiny, tiny piece. You're literally just going to clip a tiny little corner for that. So I do have this fabric. And I was looking to see if I had a little piece already cut out, but I didn't, so that's okay. It's just so small. Trying to find an end here. Oh, I guess we'll use this end. Okay. We set this to the side. And once again, I can unfold this. There we go. It's such a tiny piece. Don't really need much at all on this. So, quick little press. And then here's the little stem. So, so tiny. I'll just leave it there. And now just iron that in place. Matter of fact, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to do two of these. One for the top portion of your background and then one for the bottom. And since these pieces are so small, I'm going to go ahead and do both of them. We'll just cut one out, but I'll have them both here and I can cut the other one later. Okay, so putting this to the side and then just grabbing my scissors and we'll just cut that out. Just going to cut the one for now. There we go. That's all you need. Okay. So I'll put this to the side for later, and I've got my other piece already on there, so I can't lose it, which is great, because these pieces are so tiny. You can easily lose one. Okay. So now we can kind of subcut this one. Again, 1/4 inch seam all the way around. So let's do that. It's got a little bit of a curve here and there, so just kind of try to follow it along a little bit. You don't have to get it exact. And just keep going around. Okay, so there is our little topper, and then we've got the little stem. And stem has a little bit of a curve to it as well. Okay, I think that is about it. Alrighty. We've got all of our pieces cut out for our first acorn. Stick this over to the side, and we're going to bring back our background piece. And we're going to go ahead and start placing these where we want them. So this is kind of like what it's going to look like. And there's our little shape, right? And again, you guys can play around with this. Tilt it. You know, maybe you want to have 2 of them on here. Maybe 1. Tilt it to the side. You know, if you didn't add the embroidery on here, and then maybe now you want to do something, you can also kind of get your Cricut and maybe do some heat transfer vinyl or something like that on top. That way it doesn't kind of distort the back part of it. Or if you really don't care what the back looks like, maybe nobody's going to see it and it's going to be a little wall hanging, you can still go ahead and put it in your embroidery machine. Just note that, you know, the threads and stuff are going to show on the back. So that's why I would have preferred, if you're embroidering it, you would have done it before you actually start quilting it, because you don't want it showing on the back piece here. Okay. So yeah, it looks cute, and we haven't even put it on there yet, right? So pretty cool. Now, what the book tells you to do, right, in terms of the needle turn applique piece, now that we've got this all done, it does tell you on the curves here. So you've got, get my little pointer here. So you've got your little topper that has a little bit of a curve here and here. Any place in any type of applique where you have a little bit of a curve, you're going to want to snip the fabric right on those curves, because you want to be able to flip them once you start doing the needle turn and sewing this in. So I am going to take, would prefer my little snips, but I don't have them out. We're just going to take this here, and I'm just going to kind of snip the fabric just a tad. See that little tiny piece? Let me get you guys closer. Give me a second. Let me just snip the second one. So because it has those little curves, I went ahead and I cut this piece here, and I cut a little piece here. Very, very little. You guys see that? Very, very little that you're cutting. Just that tiny little piece right there. Right? It's just so that you can make that curve and tuck it underneath, because basically what you're doing at this point, now that you're ready to do this, is you just want to kind of follow this along, and you're going to tuck these underneath here with your needle. You're going to grab your needle and thread, and you're going to start to just apply this. So any flat surface that you have like this, right? Let's say I wanted to position this right here. What I would do, using the freezer paper, I would kind of fold it back, and that'll get me my first piece right here. See how all of the fabric went right underneath it on that fold? Makes it a little easier. So if you want, you can kind of take that, and that kind of starts it off, right? So now I'll take that to my iron here, and I'll give it a quick little press. And so it'll allow me to now keep that in place. So let me do that again so you guys could see it. Hold on. Let me flatten that out. Let me scoot this over. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm taking my applique piece and using the freezer paper, I'm using that as a way, as a guide to kind of flatten this out for me. So I kind of push the fabric underneath it, and so it's now folded over right underneath that line. And so that kind of helps to kind of keep that first fold nice and even. And so now I'll just take my iron and I will iron right on top of that to give it that fold. And that'll help me when I come over with my needle and my thread, then I can go ahead and pick this up. And it's got a nice fold line, so I'll know exactly where it needs to be tucked under. And then on the sides here, I kind of just do the same thing. I use my freezer paper as my guide. And again, the book doesn't really tell you how to tuck it. It just tells you to tuck it underneath, right? But if you have your freezer paper set, you might as well use it, right? You've already cut it out. You already like the shape of it. So use the paper as much as you can as your guides. Just kind of go around, pushing down on the freezer paper, and then just folding it over, right? And if you don't like where it folded, you can always undo it and just iron it again, right? So you can keep kind of playing with it until you get it exactly how you want it. And because you've got these little curves, you may want to just do a couple of little snips just to kind of help you tuck it underneath. So wherever you think, you know, it needs that little snip, go ahead and snip the fabric. That way you can get it nice and even, because you don't want a big bulge over on any one end. So I just kind of snip around because these are curved, and I like where this one is, so I'm going to leave that nice tucked underneath there and grab my iron to make my little crease mark. And then I'm going to kind of keep going all the way around until I like how the shape is coming out. And so I kind of use the paper as my guide. And if you need to use the ironing board or whatever flat surface, you can just bump it up against that and then just lay it flat again. And then again, grab your iron, make that little crease line. And so now on the back of the fabric, this is what you're going to start to see. You can see how it's all folding here nicely. And so now when I go in with my needle, the trim line or the line that you're going to follow is already nicely put here because the iron crease is kind of holding the fabric down a little bit for you. And so you'll have an easier time going around with your needle and thread just to kind of bring that into place. And because I snipped it, I don't have like a huge bulk right here. Yes, I do have some overlap because it is a curve, but because I've snipped it, it kind of relaxes the fabric a little bit. And so the fibers are more relaxed and it's not all bunched up into any one place. You don't want to get like a little ball somewhere because all that fabric is bunched and concentrated into the one spot. So yeah, so that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to continue to do this all the way around. And then once I have this ready to go, tomorrow I'll show you, I'll do most of it, and then I'll show you where and how I position my needle and thread to kind of put that into place. And so we'll be a little bit ahead. And then we're going to tackle the second method, which is the spray starch method. That's what we'll do tomorrow. So I know we're running kind of low on time, so let's go over to our quote of the day. So we've got our inspirational quote of the day, and our segment is here. Okay, so let's see, what do we have today? So sewing reminds us that the journey matters just as much as the finished piece. And that is just so true. You know, every step of your process is a step you should enjoy. We all love to, admire our end pieces, but just the process of getting there is our journey. And that's what we should really be enjoying and sharing with others. So I really enjoy doing this with you guys. And I thank you again for, just continuing to be with me on our sewing journey here. Now, I know that we're up on time, so we will be back tomorrow morning and we'll continue our session. And for those of you who watch Power Tools with Thread, she's going to be coming on in just a minute. So let's head over to her channel and show her some love. Thank you guys all for tuning in, and I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.
So long for now, so long. Glad you stayed a while. Hope my crafting style. Hope I left you with a smile. By now, keep your mind and space clutter-free. Hope your day is bright as can be. So long, my friends, till we craft once again. Bye now, stay crafting. See you tomorrow. So long, my friends, till we craft once again.